I would like to take the privilege to introduce to you all Dr. Ravindra Utgikar, who has a varied experience and has been associated with companies including Forbes Marshall, Honeywell Incorporation, Suzlon Energy Limited, and Sterlite Technologies Limited. Sir is currently associated with Praj Industries as the Vice President, Corporate Strategy and Marketing. He has been with Praj Industries, which offers integrated solutions to bioethanol plants, water and wastewater treatment systems, bioproducts, etc. for the past 5 years. He has been a part of the marketing and sales domain for majority of his professional career. His core competencies include corporate communications, digital marketing, international operations management, and other such domains. May I please request sir to come forward and share his views with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this generous introduction. Uh, Dr. Rao, Dr. Subba Rao, esteemed panelists, it's an honor to be on this panel and to talk about a topic that is really close to my heart, just as it is close to your heart, about environment. Uh, Before we go any further on the environment topic, I have to recall the fantastic immortal words of Mahatma Gandhi, who said that Mother Nature has given enough for man's needs, everybody's needs, but not enough for everybody's greeds. And how true it is that we are experiencing it very hard way. The World Environment Day was started some 46 years back, and every year they have been running different themes with the goal of environment protection. And today's theme is, this year's theme is ecosystem restoration. And today's theme, you have taken a derivative, which is a reimagine, recreate, and restore, which is very apt and very fitting to what the global movement is all about. The biggest challenge human beings or a mankind is facing is not in the form of global terror, not in the form of economic crisis that we have on hand, but is in the form of crisis that we have staring at us by way of conserving our environment, protecting our environment. Every year, World Economic Forum actually gets together and lists what are the top risks to the global economy. Like last year, this year's list also featured top 10 global risks, out of which 6 risks were associated with environment, which means that there is a big consensus building all over the world, developing nations, developed nations, that the biggest risk to the economy will come from one or other aspect of environment, whether it is pollution, whether it is climate change, whether it is water availability, whether it is any other issues on the marine side, and so on. So that's really like a wake-up call. And there is always a big hue and cry that not enough is being done to actually combat those evils of environment, evils of climate change and global warming. And why is all this happening? Because the countries and nations are relentlessly for economic growth. For the economic growth, there is a rapid industrialization that is happening. To support the industrialization, there is a big infrastructure built up that's going on around the countries, and India is obviously no exception. There are many people who are migrating from rural to urban areas in pursuit of jobs. That means that the forests are compromised. We are also witnessing that there is a huge mining activity that is going on that is depleting planet Earth and causing irrevocable damage. There are huge transportation needs. And to support this continuous economic growth, that has to be fueled by ever-rising energy demand. And that energy demand is today heavily dependent on the fossil fuel resources, namely coming in the form of coal or oil. And these fuels, when combusted, emit greenhouse gases. These greenhouse gases, it's been clearly established, is one of the major reasons for global warming and climate change. And we are already witnessing untimely rains, floods, droughts, scorchy summers, and untimely winter conditions all around the world. The rain continues to hit us and damage our crops. These are all evils of climate change, which is making the not only the economic survival, but overall the sustainability of the planet. There is an imbalance in the ecosystem that is making things even more difficult. So if you look at the energy landscape today, it's totally dominated by fossil fuels. And if we have to change in the going on with the theme of ecosystem restoration and reimagining, we need to reimagine how we can look at the energy canvas or energy mix that can be different from what it is right now. Typically saying, can we move from brown to green? And panelists earlier have spoken about some of the things that they talked, that one way to make this transition happen is by way of adopting the renewable energy. Enough has always been talked about solar and wind, but today the topic I was to discuss with you is about the bioenergy or biofuels. Now, before I go there, I want to reiterate that India is signatory to the COP21 Paris Climate Change Summit, which means that we have an obligation to keep our carbon emissions in control, in fact, reduce the carbon emissions, which in turn is going to help combat the evils of global warming. So it has no choice but to actually adopt the green energy portfolio. And talking about the bioeconomy now, bioeconomy is basically a knowledge-based processes that use the biological resources for production of energy, products, goods, which are in a way renewable in nature. So just imagine that today's all energy sources are coming from hydrocarbons, which are basically beneath the earth's surface, whether it is, coal extraction, oil extraction. And we are saying that in a bioeconomy, we are looking at carbohydrates as a feedstock or a source of energy. So instead of hydrocarbons, we want to use carbohydrates. So we want a transition from a hydrocarbon-based economy to carbohydrate-based economy. And why is that? Because we know that the plants absorb carbon dioxide for food generations. That's photosynthesis. We've all studied it. And in turn, we also know that fuels, products, materials made from biological sources, when consumed, emit carbon dioxide. So one hand, plants absorb carbon dioxide. Another hand, the products and fuels made from biological resources emit carbon dioxide. So in a way, you have what we call as a carbon neutral cycle, which means that if you look at bioeconomy, it is taking the carbon away, which is the main culprit for causing climate change or global warming. So using the bioeconomy, which is harnessing the biological resources, we are able to substitute some of the fossil fuels by renewable fuels in the form of biofuels. Let's go a step further. If we industry or transportation, these are the top two sectors responsible for highest greenhouse gas emissions or highest carbon emissions. And the impacts are there for everybody to see in the form of air pollution, particulate matter that actually causes the health hazards. Then there is obviously the irrevocable damage to the planet Earth that we are causing, which is the balance. Instead, if we use the biofuel, so biofuels is basically agriculture or agri-waste based feedstock when biologically and chemically processed gives to either liquid or gaseous form of fuels. So ethanol is very popular form of biofuel, which when blended with gasoline, and now there are experiments going on to blend that with diesel also, will have a more environmentally free green fuel. And these biofuels are available for surface transport, which is road transport, are now being invented, discovered, tried for aviation fuels, and also are being tried for marine application. So for all forms of transportations, these biofuels have a big role to play. Now biofuels have a big environmental impact. Why? Because farmers post-harvesting burn crop residue, which is called stubble burning. And some of you who are living in the northern part of the country are very familiar that there is a brown clouding issue because of the burning of agri-waste, because the farmers cannot actually spend time and labor and activities to get rid of the agri residue. So instead they burn it. So these biological processes, what we call lignocellulosic ethanol, actually there are processes available where you use that agricultural waste in terms of rice straw, cotton straw, wheat straw, all that can be used as a feedstock, and in turn what you have is a biofuel, whether it is a compressed biogas. India also imports huge quantity of natural gas, and then after refining we get a compressed natural gas. Similarly, using this agricultural waste that I spoke about, you can make compressed biogas, which is more high octane in nature. So, and what's more important, environment friendly, it solves the brown clouding problem, it has less particulate matter, it takes away the carbon dioxide emissions which otherwise would have happened because of the introduction of the fossil fuels. So in many ways, environmentally it is beneficial. Socially, it has a big value because this is giving farmers another stream of revenue apart from the crop seasonalities for which they are dependent for their earning. If there is agricultural residue that they are able to sell, it's an alternative revenue stream for the farmer. Not only that, there is an employment and entrepreneurship opportunities getting ready in the rural areas. Moreover, the byproducts from these biorefineries are in the form of organic manure, which are very healthy for the crops or the soil. So there are many social benefits. Clearly, economy is a big thing. India imports about 80% of its, fossil fuels from the import sources. So there is a big outgo in terms of foreign exchange. So if we harness our captive indigenous biomass as a source for producing biofuels, to that extent, we will reduce our dependency on the imported fuel. To that extent, we will reduce the foreign exchange outgo. To that extent, it will improve the current account deficit, and to that extent, it will be beneficial to economy. And clearly, with the government's Atmanirbhar Abhiyan, this is very aligned. So I think biofuels have positive impact on energy, environment, economy, and as well as in energy, environment, economy, it has a positive impact, and clearly it is empowering India's growth. Same way, there is in the bioeconomy, we have some processes where the effluent that is emitting from the industries, if they get treated in terms of zero liquid discharge, we have zero water wastage. Now today we have a situation that water tables are depleting, and uncontrolled sewage or effluent disposal in the farmland is causing damage to the farm. So these are biggest evils that we are experiencing, and with the bioeconomy we are able to make sure that we are able to contain these damages. So I think there are enough and more things to do. I think Mr. Pundir talked about solutions to combat or to preserve environment, and harnessing or mainstreaming bioeconomy in the main economy provides a much needed breakthrough. There is job creation, there is employment creation, there is revenue generation because the rural jobs are created, the migration from rural to urban area is stopped. To that extent, the stressed infrastructure of metros is eased out. So there are numerous benefits, and in a way these plants can be decentralized in near to the farming area. So it creates a self-sustaining economic cycle that the farmers grow the crop, their agricultural waste is actually put into the biofuel plants. That biofuel plants in turn produce biofuels. Those biofuels can be used in the tractor or vehicles that they are using, and the byproducts from those plants can be used in their own farms. So that there are livelihood opportunities, there are opportunities as biomass aggregators, supply chain. So I think there are enough and more solutions, because just the other day there was an article saying that demographic dividend is a distinct advantage only if it is harnessed. Otherwise, it can be a big nightmare, because if the robots are taking over the jobs, then you don't necessarily need more hands. The hands cannot be idle. So for us, the biggest challenge is to keep employment opportunities for our rural youth and create high quality jobs. So I think if they're engaged in bioeconomy, which is in a way a self-sustaining cycle, it will be a fantastic thing to conserve environment. So I think the threat of global warming and climate change is for real. The solution is in our hands. In fact, the quote goes something like this, that the biggest danger to our planet is a belief that someone else will solve the problem. So it's not someone else, but we only have to solve the problem. Reduce, reuse, restore, recycle, replenish is the mantra, and some of the theme that you have derived from it. Fantastic thing about recreation. Of recreation, reimagining the fuel landscape, energy landscape, recreating from waste to wealth, which is a form of fuel. That is also a very good thing. And in turn, we restore the ecological balance instead of trying to create more carbon, more greenhouse emissions, and actually heading to a path of no return. So I once again thank you for inviting me. This has been a wonderful conference. I have learned a few things from the experts who have spoken so far, and I hope we are able to add value. And each one of us takes an oath today that we will take responsibility of conserving environment in every aspect. We will try to reduce, reuse, recycle, replenish, replace, and we will try to move away from consumption based economy, value based economy, and try to harness sustainable practices. In fact, sustainability is the word for everything, whether it is sustainable growth, whether it is sustainable economy, whether it is sustainable livelihood, or for that matter, it is sustainable condition, living condition. So I think we all need to do our bit. Environment Day is just another reminder for us to do our bit. I especially thank MIT WPU, my alma mater. It's always a pleasure to be here. I still remember the years in late 80s that I spent here, and also the Distinguished Alumnus Award I received through Dr. V.D. Garrard. And I feel very proud to be associated with my alma mater every now and then. I look forward to opportunity to engage with you again. Thank you very much.
How can India create production facilities for biofuels to satisfy its large fuel demand?
So I tried to answer it in the box. What I said there is biofuel plants already exist in India. What is required is a scale up. For scale up to happen, there has to be a whole ecosystem that needs to come in play. Just imagine hundreds of years back, there was no ecosystem for coal transportation. Coal is concentrated somewhere else. Power plants are concentrated somewhere else. This all distribution needs to happen. So all that ecosystem came along, right? Same thing with the gas infrastructure, pipeline, extraction, all that. Similarly, for biofuel projects, the whole infrastructure and supply chain, both backward in terms of feedstock management from farmland, organized manner to the advanced biorefineries, and from advanced biorefineries all the way to the oil depots or fuel dispensing stations. So all this forward and backward ecosystem needs to play. It needs strengthening. Then will come scale. There are commercial scale high capacity biofuel plants that are already being set up in northern India, and the work is on. I mean, there is a policy called, if someone is interested, there is a policy called SAT, SATAT, that is the government wants to set up 5,000 compressed biogas plants all around the country, which will have a self-sustaining economy, and they will feed to either the gas grid or they will be fed to the oil dispensing station. So the long and short of it, plants are already existing. What requires is scale up. For scale up to happen, the strengthening of the whole industry ecosystem, finance, equity investors, developers, feedstock suppliers, energy off-takers, all this legal, contractual framework, business modeling needs to come in play. Complex topic, but that's the answer to your question.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable thoughts. Requesting the speakers to kindly accept this small token of gratitude from our side.